So, greetings to you. Greetings and welcome to Uncensored Guyana. I am Dr. Prasad, L. Prasad. According to the Win people, the fake Indian. Well, you got to be fake with something. At least I'm transparent. And I'm right on your laptop, your television, your telephones, fake. So you are seeing. I'm not denying it because I'm not biologically Indian. So if you think I'm a fake Indian, at least you can see. I ain't running from it. I'm accepting it. I can't do anything about it. Maybe in the second lifetime, reincarnation, then I can tell the universe, look, make me a real Indian this time when I come again. And make sure I come with everything that I have now. You know what I mean. It's Monday. And instead of us hearing from the CCJ, we are now faced with what will come out of the ICJ. Well, I don't know what the latest is because I'm now on my live, so I haven't checked the recent updates as to what came out of the hearing of the ICJ. I think this is the first, then there's another one to determine the verdict. But I'll give my overview. Remember, I'm not a mainstream thinker. I don't think like everybody else. My mindset is different. I am wired differently. So when I make suggestions, I am triggering a part of you that you have never really tapped into, which is good. You don't want to hear the same thing, everybody repeating the same thing, the same talking points. Oh, this and that, and oh, this one said, no, I'm not into that. It's boring. I need my own brand, my own taste. This is why when you buy a copy of the book, of the series, Prince Ali and the President, you would see that my writing style is different. It's not mainstream. It's not the same thing. I have adapted my writing style to suit this generation. The mindset, the patience, the entire persona of the present human as they are now. Not the same. So you'll understand that I'm different. Everything I do. You need to get a copy of the book. Prince Ali and the President 1, 2, 3. And I'm wrapping up 4. It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot. And it's costing a lot of money. Because you have to pay people to do your proofreading. You have to. I'm not an expert in grammar, and I don't know how to work with the internet stuff. So I have to depend on people, specialists who are in this field, to edit my manuscripts and make suggestions, and not to change anything, just the format, and see how it goes and the rhythm and things like that, and making sure that I don't set myself up for persons to say, and say, you see, in this line here, he mentioned me, so I can get a lawyer because look here, he says Muhammad here. It's a process, and it costs a lot of money. It's not cheap. All right, but the universe is making sure that whatever funds is needed is there, because it's not fitting for my character to be online begging. for donations and make a subscription to the Zella account. No, it's there are people who reached out to me and said, look, Doc, I'm not rich. I really want to support your work. This is what I'm committing to do every month. There are people, some people committed $50, $100. They're not many, but there are people who did it. And they have begged me. They begged, they said, please don't mention, don't encourage, because it doesn't suit you. That suits PNC people. That suits David Hines and Slow and Burke. It suits them. But when you do it, you're making us look bad, you know? I'm like, how am I making you? Yeah, you're making us look bad as though we're not supporting you. I said, no, it's not, it wasn't meant for that. But I understand what they're saying. I get where they're coming from. So because of that, you notice that I have not done it in a while, because I'm listening to people. But I can say, buy the book. At least you're not giving anything for free. If you make a subscription to the book, then it's less than $5. Imagine that. This copy on Amazon is less than $5. That's a digital copy. The hard copy, they have some issues. They're trying to resolve that. But a hard copy is less than how much? I think it's what? Less than $15? Are you kidding me? And you can have a copy. You can be in your home or your phone listening to me and holding the book and say, wow, I can't believe I have a book of Dr. Prasad. Yes. That's how cheap it is. But to print it and make it available in stores, it will cost too much. Because it's not like the days when you go to school. Mass production would take a lot of money, and I don't have that capital to do that. Like I said, nobody's backing me, just you. So to get that out of the way, I'm not reading anything more from the books because, you know, no, somebody wants to hear from the 12 sins of the Lamborghini. Aren't you seeing enough on the Muhammad's page? I'm sorry. This is not about the Muhammads. Please understand, it's not about the Muhammads. But the 12 sins of the Lamborghini, you can figure it out, but it's not the same here. This is not about them. All my books are fiction to entertain you, to educate you, to stimulate you, not to point a finger. But you're smart people, right? You're smart people. You can put the pieces together. Okay? Now, it concerns me with what's happening right now at the ICJ, because I'm one of the individuals who would have used my platform when Maduro was boiling up and cooking up all of his thing and shooting at Guyanese soldiers and kidnapping Guyanese citizens and talking about Essequibo belongs to him and the map and the campaign and the elections. During that time, I was constantly doing what I have to do to represent my country. So I have a vested interest in that. It is sad to know that within the country, Guyana, and mind you, I am one of the voices in the diaspora. I frequent my country that has never, not under the PNC government, recent PNC government, not under this Irfan Ali government, I have never in any way benefited from my own country. I regularly visit Guyana. I get no cash grant, no benefit whatsoever. I receive no land, no housing, nothing from either governments. So if you think that how I am in this flamboyant way, doing what I have to do, turn my entire platform towards the defense and protection and sustenance of the current Ali government, you think I'm benefiting? No, I'm not. I've never benefited, ever, from none of them. Then why do I do it? Why do I passionately, consistently do what I do? It seems like I'm being funded. No, I'm not. Nobody from the PPP, nobody from the government. They make promises. They make promises, but never fulfill those promises, ever. So why? Let me tell you why. Because I have offsprings in the country, ancestral ties to the country. I've experienced the beauty of the country. I know the potential of the country. I know the sacrifices the good citizens of that country made. I know the struggles of Chedi. I know all that Chedi gave birth to. I am saddened that most of his work is not being completed, but we're dealing with different individuals. Irfan is not Chedi, Jagdeo is not Chedi, Ramatar is not Chedi. I get it. I understand. People switch things around for their own glory. That's understood. But what is consistent in my mind, if I have to look at direct benefits from any government, that will determine how I represent that country. That will determine. Under the Granger government, I never stood with Granger. I talked to him twice, but never stood with Granger. Because Granger represented chaos, division, poverty, internal strife, crime, criminality, corruption. That's what he represented, because he was at the top of a party that had the blueprint for all of that. So he couldn't change it. He had to go with the flow. That's how they got the votes they got. I always stood with the PPP. Always. So I was happy when it came to the fact that someone I knew back in the day, and I understood his character then, was at the forefront. However he managed to secure that is none of my business. My point is, I was pleasured by the fact that Irfan was the candidate. And I used what I had to use at my disposal to support that. And I consistently continue to support that. Why? Because this is bigger than Irfan Ali. Irfan Ali was raised under the umbrella of the ideologies of Chedi Jagan. No matter how Irfan Ali tries to alter that, the substance from which Irfan's policy came is not from his own mind. It's from the mind of Chedi Jagan. So what I trusted is not that I trusted Irfan, I trusted Chedi. And anybody who came up under the umbrella of Chedi, they can't deviate too far from Chedi's policy, because why? Their entire being, their entire structure is molded and crafted in the image of the policies of Chedi Jagan. So they can't run far from that. 90% of their policies must mirror Jagan. And I have seen that consistently with Jagdeo, Ramatar, and even more with Irfan Ali. Why do I see it more with Irfan Ali? Because I understood Irfan then as a lover of Chedi. I knew that when we hung out back in the day, all Irfan talked about was Chedi. When we talk politics, he talks about Chedi. About Jagdeo sometimes, but mostly about Chedi Jagan. So I know that he embodies most of what Chedi stood for. So what Irfan Ali has been doing since 2020 to now, it's by no accident. So this is why he has secured my undivided trust and attention, and by extension, why most of Guyana stands behind Irfan Ali, because they see Chedi in Ali. Now, if there's ever a time where we need not to lay blame, but to call a spade, that time is now. That time is now. The challenge is that president that we have now had to deal with. First, it was the possible rigging of the 2020 election. The possibility that he could have been an actual repetition of what Barnum did to Chedi during the previous elections by stealing the win from Chedi continuously. If close to reliving that experience in 2020, when the PNC tried to steal the elections and deprive him, like they had deprived Chedi Jagan of the presidency. But thanks to modern day science of law and the strength of Irfan Ali and the backings of the gods of the universe, we can see policies continued to this day. Guyana has gone and has continued to progress. So 2020 chaos, the inexperienced young president had to deal with. Then there was COVID, even worse. Then there was balancing the economy, dealing with this newfound wealth, attracting and appointing the right people to the right positions. Then there was the threat of invasion of a known, practicing dictator, criminal, sanctioned, indicted, murderous so-called president in the neighboring country. Ali had to graduate from dealing with a global pandemic to the status of a five-star general, the personality of Napoleon the Great, to deal with Maduro. He had to arrive. He had to arrive to that status to deal with Maduro. You have any idea how difficult that was? No, you wouldn't. You would have to be Ali to know how difficult it was. So despite coming through a possible rigged election, 2020, COVID, economic collapse, global pandemic, and kept Guyana together, stable, and more united than ever, then having to deal with Maduro. Following Maduro, he had to deal with all the internal enemies, the PNC, and the new kid on the block, the devil's advocate, who was once favored by the same Ali government with contracts, with all these things, flipped. Those were the challenges one man had to deal with, because only that one man fought all these battles in the public. Every issue he addressed and dealt with on an international stage, before an international press, before an international court, before the CCJ, Ali did. And he got credit for none. Kept Guyana out of a war, kept Guyana from being sanctioned because of a criminal citizen that entered politics that Ali could have stopped, but he didn't, because that's not his thing. because Chedi would not have done it too. Despite all that, we still have to deal with today two major issues before two major courts. The highest court on the planet and the highest court in CARICOM. One, dealing with an agent of Barnum at the CCJ, and two, dealing with an agent of Barnum at the ICJ. Because Venezuela was a friend of Forbes Barnum. Chavez and all these people, they were friends of Forbes Barnum. You know, criminals in arms. And Ajruddin just fell into that group. And he continued the legacy with the coverage of the PNC and thought he would have gotten the same coverage from the PPP, but he didn't get it, so he turned opposition leader. Now, folks, these are the two issues I want to address for you. The issue before the CCJ and the issue before the ICJ. Both of these issues, there is one power that can determine the outcome for both of these issues. One power. It's out of Guyana's hand. It's only under the influence of one global superpower, and it's not China. It's the United States of America. Why? Let me explain. Venezuela became interested in Guyana because of Guyana's newfound wealth, which is billions and billions and billions and billions of greatness. Venezuela, the oil magnates, the oil cartels in the region and foreign lands that operate via Venezuela hijacked the Venezuelan government and say, hey, we need that territory. Use your state, your constitution, or whatever you have to do to get that territory because we need the oil. It was not an issue before the oil. It became an issue after the oil. So they went after it. And since all of these business people thought that they had connections also in the American government system with Biden, that they don't have to worry about consequences because after all, it's the US dollar. So they attempt to pursue their claims that this territory that has all this wealth belong to them. And they pursued it. What saved Guyana is the fact that the people who are now in the American government are bigger oil giants. They're bigger. They're not in Europe. They're just Americans. And the Israelis or whoever they are. So they have no direct influence in Venezuelan oil. So therefore, they can protect Guyana's oil because they have favorable deals with the Guyana government when it comes to the oil. So they showed Venezuela, technically that oil belongs to us, not Guyana, us. So if you want to fuck with Guyana, you're fucking with us. We can't allow that. Hence, the intervention, the arrest of Maduro, and then the annexing of the Venezuelan oil economy. Let's fast forward. We have the situation with the Mohammeds, How does it tie into that? Well, the Bahamas were connected to Maduro. They were connected with the same trade. The Bahamas invested in oil and all these things via Venezuela to get the cheap oil from there and sell it expensive on the Guyana market. Politicians know that. Governments in Guyana knew that. There's another man on the West Coast, I won't call his name, but he has gas stations somewhere there on the east bank of Essequibo. He is known to be smuggling a lot of Venezuelan oil for years. No government ever stopped him because it was convenient. But this man has always been known to sell oil. The Bahamas, same issue. So, the Americans can directly influence the outcome of the CCJ case. President Irfan Ali won Guyana. He's similar in his ideology to Trump. This is why they never liked Chetty. The West never liked Chetty. The British definitely never liked Chetty. And the Americans used to accuse him of being a communist. Why? Because Chetty, Guyana first. And if you have presidents with the ideology like Chetty Jagan, you got to watch your back. Because if you are too pro-nationalist, they want to have something over you to control you, to say, hey, don't slip up. Because if you slip up, we can lose this pit bull and fuck up your country to keep you in a certain line. That's where the Maduro or the Venezuela issue and the Bahamas issue comes in. The Bahamas issue is going to prolong. The Americans really don't want the Bahamas. They don't want the Bahamas. If they want the Bahamas, they'll take the Bahamas. It's a convenient weapon that they can keep prolonging it just to keep the Ali government in a certain position. Because if the Bahamas are gone, what leverage they have over the government? What? If the Venezuelan issue is settled, what leverage they have over the government? None. So the Venezuelan issue over at the ICJ, it can go in two directions. One, in favor of Venezuela. Two, in favor of Guyana. Or it can continue at the CCJ. Postponing, 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 postponing. This would be the case to keep Guyana under a certain amount of control, because Guyana has something that is very essential, even more essential now with the issues in Iran, the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz and all these things with the oil economy. Guyana right now is very, very important to the West. The West might have control over Venezuelan oil, but they don't trust it that much. Because the Venezuelan president, the acting president, that woman who looks like a robot, she is not completely under the American influence. Because if she were, she would not be wearing a brooch, sporting a new Venezuelan map, including Guyana. She wouldn't do that. They gave her some free rein just so they can tell Guyana, indirectly, subliminally, you still have this enemy to deal with. We haven't solved it. We got rid of Maduro, but his government is still in place. And they can continue his legacy just to punish Guyana or to send a message to America. This is the weapon they would use over Guyana. And the bigger picture here is this. China The big picture here is China. All this global conflict that's happening, one giant they want to bring down. They want to cripple one giant. That is China. Without oil, China's economy will collapse. It will collapse. No matter what China is manufacturing, no matter how self-sufficient they are, the economy will cripple if China doesn't have access to cheap oil. And cheap oil is from Venezuela, from the Middle East, and whatever deals China made with Guyana with Chinese companies that are operating in the oil fields. The closer Guyana gets to China, the more pressure Guyana will come under. Pressures that you wouldn't even believe would have that amount of impact. Now let's look at the two pressures. If the Americans want to cripple Guyana, to punish Guyana from all the Chinese investments that's being made right now, and the slowly approaching, the slowly taking over, the dominance of Guyana's economy, the fact that Chinese are buying into the Guyanese economy, the Americans can put a halt to that. How? If the CCJ rules in favor of Azzuddin Mohammed, that can cause Guyana to come under sanctions. And if Guyana comes under sanctions, it will sanction the oil of Guyana. A lot of the American companies that are operating in Guyana would be forced to pull out, but would have to have compensation because Guyana guaranteed them protection, that these things wouldn't happen and they can be free to sell, to do their business, because Guyana is not under any sanction, is not threatened by any sanction. It's a safe place to do business. If the ICJ rules in favor of Guyana, remember, the Americans are already in control of Venezuelan oil. They have that over the president of Venezuela. If the president of Guyana, if the Guyana government does not loosen their contracts and operations and collaborations with China, the Americans can dominate Guyana via Venezuela. Via Venezuela. Again, how can they do that? Well, the ICJ can rule in favor of Venezuela. And if the ICJ rules in favor of Venezuela, what do you think happens? That's the final court. There is no place else for Guyana to go. The CCJ already is powerless. CARICOM is a bitch. They can't do anything. Venezuela would implement whatever means they have to implement. Now, for the Guyana government to stop that, they have to give the Americans a clear picture, backdoor agreements that they can dominate the oil, dominate the resources, just to guarantee Guyana's sovereignty and safety. And when they give that, it would be leaked. It would be leaked that the Ali government sold Guyana out. So when that happens, the ICJ would rule in favor of Guyana, but not completely. There must still be something there, some clause, that if Guyana steps out of line, Venezuela can always pick it up. Because the powers that be, the oil giants that controls the US, that controls everywhere, need to be safe. And their safety is something that has to be guaranteed. They have to be in control of their safety. There is nowhere Guyana would have absolute control. There will always be some clause hanging over Guyana's head. Why? Because of the resources. You will ask yourself the question, how is it that Delcy Rodriguez became president because she sold out Maduro and Trump gave her a chance? Nobody knew. Even the Marina Karina thing, who gave Donald Trump her Nobel Peace Prize. Who the fuck does that? She gave it to him because she was so confident that she would have been installed. Not understanding politics herself. The Americans aren't concerned about who runs your country. They're concerned that nobody interferes with their interest in the resources of your country. They don't care who runs your country. You think if Maduro was compromising and doing what the Americans say, you think he would be arrested? You won't have an issue with Guyana. Maduro would still be president. This is not about democracy. This is about control. So Delcy Rodriguez, the president of Venezuela now, she knows the deals that she made with the US. And she knows the guarantees that they give her. So she has to now hold on to power within the country to show her fellow countrymen that she is tough, that she is as strong as Maduro. So she's going to push all these claims with territorial issues, and Guyana belongs to Venezuela, and they're going to push some text or something last week or whatever it is, that they don't care what the ICJ says. They're not changing their map. Guyana belongs to Venezuela. It's all talk. They're only doing that because they know the Americans would not interfere with them. They also know that they can't do anything physically to Guyana. They know that. But the rhetoric is what they need to get out there, because the Americans want that rhetoric out there to tell the Guyana government, don't slip up. Not because we got rid of Maduro, it means that you're free. They're controlling Guyana's economy via Venezuela and the CCJ. It's the curse of oil. That's the position that Guyana finds itself in. So regardless of how it goes, all the charade of the ICJ, all of that, at the end of the day, it is not up to them. Who do you think these judges of the ICJ are? Robots? They're people. They have bosses, and their bosses have sponsors, and their sponsors are represented by corporations. No ruling is coincidental. If this was an independent issue, do you think Delcy Rodriguez, knowing that that America stands with Guyana, you think, knowing that she is next to go and there's indictment over her head, the Americans want her? Because before Maduro left the country, she never left the country. She was blocked also, she was sanctioned. She could not leave Venezuela. Now she can travel to Grenada and Barbados. Why? Because the Americans made it possible. Why? Because she sold out her country's soul. She got to keep face for the voters in Venezuela by all this thing about Essequibo. No, the people there aren't concerned about that. But she has to continue that language just to show that she's tough. And I want to reiterate so you understand my position here. That position is whatever the Venezuelan acting president is doing, it is because she got clearance from the Americans to do it. Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, whoever they are, gave her clearance to do that. Guyana must not be deceived. The Venezuelan president and government right now can't do anything unless it is approved by the Americans. The Barbados deal, the Grenada deal, is not independent from American approval. She got approval to do that. Wearing of that thing, she got approval to do that. Because something about the Ali government right now that the Americans still want access to, and they're not getting it. So they're using all of these distractions to point to Ali that, hey, we have several weapons we can fuck you up with. So while all of this is happening, the opposition in Guyana is pushing their typical racial rhetoric, their typical bullshit. They're pushing that. Presenting the Ali government as being weak, ignorant of whatever. Forgetting that they were in government. Granger had some issues with Venezuela as well. He couldn't deal with it. But CARICOM stood with him because he's black. The Americans was not involved. It was settled. The difference is, this is bigger than Ali. This is America against China. The Americans already blocked access to the Venezuelan cheap oil from China to China. China has issues there getting oil. They now block it to the Middle East. Now, they need to get China out of Guyana's economy. And all of this is about getting rid of China from the Guyanese economy. They have to get rid of China. And if the Guyana government give China more access, is the stronger the Venezuelan rhetoric will become, and sanctions will follow. The stronger. The Americans they don't care about building Guyana. They don't care about Guyana's economy. They don't care about that. They want to take down the one threat that is a threat to them, and that's China. To cripple China, block their access to oil. They cripple China. The American already took over Trinidad. The Trinidad's policy now is against Chinese commerce. They need to take control of the policies of the Ali government. And I think Ali is not giving them that access. Because he's like, hey, I mean, oil is oil. Whoever wants to buy, whoever invests, that's it. So the results of these two courts depends on how much access China gets to Guyana's oil and Guyana's resources. How much land Guyana give to China, how much Chinese businesses, Chinese companies, how much contracts. Remember when the Secretary of State was in Guyana, he complained about the roads. He talked about the cheap Chinese labor. He talked about that. He condemned and criticized China's influence in Guyana. They had an issue since then. The citizens are the one who carry the heavy load. Because the Guyanese citizens, mostly, they don't care about who invest. They just want to know that they get a piece of the pie. And rightly so, if you are a country, you have an open market, anybody should be allowed to come in your country and invest. The Chinese are a threat to the American economy. Because China is not about war. They're about business, earning money. They don't care about who you fight for. It's like, hey, we just want access to your market. We want to buy your oil. You want a better deal. And China does what China would do. Get better deals for their citizens. The cheaper is the better. Any country does that. We just have to support our president, our government, but we must understand that this support comes with consequences. Is either President Ali stand 100% Guyana and he face a terrible backlash from the Americans, which can cost the country, or he compromise. And if he compromises, that Venezuela issue will disappear, and Azradin will be on the next plane out of the country. That's it. And for him to compromise, he has to compromise with America, not China. China don't have the influence to stop the issue at Venezuela, nor influence over the CCJ. They don't have that influence. They don't interfere. Only the Americans and the Israelis, they have the power to decide any country's fate. So you have to stand with whoever has the power of the pen. And the Americans and the Israelis, they have the power of the pen. So Guyana has to stand with Israel and America. Otherwise, we might very well be the next Ukraine, Iran, one of these places where they're bombing every day. It's unfortunate, but that's how the world works. You have nothing, then you fear nothing. Let's break it down. Who do you think those criminals go after? You see, now the police has to build police stations and police posts next to every Chinese business in Guyana. You see how bad it is now? Next to every Chinese investment establishment, the police has to put a post, police outpost. Why? Because they are targeting the Chinese businesses. The attractive women, or the women who are the Coca-Cola shape, you know, the firm boobs, they have to walk with a bodyguard because every man wants to fuck them. They're chasing these women. They're going out. They want these women. Just a taste. You walk the city, you have a nice watch, or you have the thieves are targeting you. If you have nothing, you fear nothing. A man who has money, a man who might be affluent and he carries himself a certain way, prostitutes, hookers, gold diggers, target those men. You have nothing, nobody gives a shit if you exist. Nobody wants you if you are nothing, if you have nothing. When Guyana didn't discover this oil, even though Guyana had gold and bauxite, all these other things, nobody was interested. People curse Guyana, they talk all this stuff about Guyana. Oh, they're poor, they're this, they're that, all kinds of stuff. Oil surfaced. Now the whole world is split. Half is jealous of Guyana, the half wants to see Guyana occupied. Just because of your progress. You can't help it. Either way, you have to look out for yourself. So Guyanese citizens, you need to understand, this isn't an opposition or government thing. While this asshole is gallivanting himself, looking at mud roads way in the interior next to the border of Venezuela, and saying, oh, look, Ali, look, Susan Rodriguez, you talk about building roads for these Amerindian people, whatever it is. And while you're focusing on that, if The Ali government does not compromise with the West and keeps policies that favors China, Guyana will be attacked. And you, the citizens, we, the citizens, would ask the question, we thought America has our back. No, America has no one's back but itself, not even their own citizens. America has the backs of the businesses, the corporate America, their back they have. So if Guyana wants to continue to prosper and have an illusion of protection, then we need to have less to do with China. Less. Then we're safe. Because China cannot protect Guyana. China cannot protect Guyana. Only the Americans can protect Guyana. China can't. I understand. It's hard. But it's the reality. Give the Americans what they want, and we're not going to be bothered with. You can't give it 50-50. There's only one superpower, and that's the Americans. It's in America and China. America don't want a brother. It's not an equal share. It's not we are the no, it's we are the superpower. If you're giving somebody else a chance to replace us, we're going to make sure that you don't get the opportunity to do it. Whatever the ruling of the ICJ is, it depends on who gives the order. And it would not be China. It won't be China. Let us hope that our good government can understand. You want to do business with the Chinese, but the Americans don't want you to. So let's just say, okay, China, I'm sorry, but Big Daddy says no. And we got to listen to Big Daddy because you ain't got our back. You don't like wars. So these guys like wars and we don't want any war, so we're going to listen to them. So I thank you for your attention. Until next time, visit Amazon.com, buy a copy of my book, read the book, and your subscription goes towards the Dorga Foundation, supporting humanity, helping those in need. We do that every month. It's very expensive. Life is not easy here. We try our best to have 20 and more than 20 families every month. When you make your subscription and you make your donations, then we send you information regarding these families. But it's not something to post online. You know, you don't help people and then you brag about it. We don't do that. So, until next time, goodbye.